Welcome to this episode of Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily, where we read you good news to fall asleep to. Today is Monday, April 13th, 2020. Our uplifting stories include 18,000 pounds of food prepared for the 2020 Olympics was donated to a Colorado food bank, a New Yorker who makes sure that the homeless population is not forgotten, dogs being trained to sniff out COVID-19, and John Krasinski makes hospital staff's baseball dreams come true. Now, breathe in. Breathe out. And relax as we dive into these stories. Our first story is from the United States Olympic Committee by Karen Price. 18,000 pounds of food was prepped for Tokyo to feed U.S. athletes. Now, it's with the Colorado Food Bank. In the best of times, the pallets of food that the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee collected in recent months to support its athletes this summer would just be beginning the journey to Tokyo. Instead, as the COVID-19 pandemic has forced the postponement of the Olympic and Paralympic Games Tokyo 2020, those pallets are now at the Care and Share Food Bank in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and will go toward helping those in need throughout southern Colorado. The USOPC's donation last week included nearly $115,000 worth of food to support the local community that supports Olympic and Paralympic athletes so strongly throughout the year. These are incredibly difficult times for everyone, said Rick Adams, the USOPC's Chief of Sport Performance and National Governing Body Services. Our CEO, Sarah Hirschland, is someone who is always thinking about others. And in this case, when she became aware that we had this large volume of food, she wanted to make sure we did all we could for the people in Colorado Springs who need it. Colorado Springs is home not just to the USOPC headquarters, but also hundreds of athletes and support staff thanks to the presence of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center and the various NGBs based in the city. Adams said the USOPC worked in collaboration with Mayor John Suthers to determine where in the community the donation could be best used, ultimately deciding on Care and Share. We're confident they're getting it into the hands of people who need it right now, he said. Unfortunately, the product isn't on its way to Tokyo, but there are more important things going on, and we wanted to do our small part to help. The logistics behind sending athletes to the Olympic and Paralympic Games are coordinated to the smallest details and begin years in advance. A big part of the USOPC's support of athletes is making sure that they have the proper nutrition both for performance and recovery. That means ensuring that the same food the athletes would be eating in the United States is available in whatever country the Games may be held. As such, the organization ships enormous amounts of food to wherever the Summer and Winter Games are located, and it also sends chefs that prepare the athletes' food on a regular basis at various training centers to ensure continuity, Adams said. It doesn't end with sending food or chefs either. For example, Adams said, refrigeration standards are different in different countries, so staff has to make sure the food is being stored the same way it is in the US. And in Rio, where we had a lot of evening finals, it was really important for the athletes to be able to recover in the evening where maybe back at the Olympic Village, there may not be the volume of food they'd be looking for late at night, Adams said. So we prepare meals for the athletes to make sure they can properly recover. In Tokyo, the finals are more often earlier in the day, but then really good recovery meals midday would be important. The USOPC was getting ready to begin shipping food, including items such as granola bars and applesauce, to Tokyo when the International Olympic Committee announced in late March the one-year postponement. With the food set to expire before the end of the year, and with the need in the community, USOPC officials founded a new home. Care and Share serves 31 counties in southern Colorado and last year helped 171,000 people, Chief Operating Officer Shannon Bryce said. Although she doesn't yet have numbers, they've already seen an increase in need with many people unable to work amidst the COVID-19 outbreak. It's going to continue to be an issue and we'll be responding to it for a good amount of time, she said. The USOPC regularly donates food from its Colorado Springs facility to the food bank, but nothing on the level of the shipment delivered last week. It totaled 18,362 pounds, Bryce said. And with 1 pound equaling roughly 1.2 meals, it will make a significant difference. We're actively trying to secure as much food as we can so donations like this and this value, this amount, are incredibly meaningful, Bryce said. In addition to its regular donations to the food bank, the USOPC at various times embraced other opportunities to help the community in and around Olympic City, USA. For example, when wildfires raged in the area, they opened the training center to help people who'd been displaced from their homes. We're so proud of the city and proud of the opportunity we have to help in some small way, as everyone else is doing, Adams said. It's extraordinary what's happening in our country in terms of people wanting to help each other, help first responders, help medical staff. I'm so proud of everyone who's risen up in these really tough times. Our next article is from Spectrum News NY1 by Pat Kiernan. Chun Rosenkrantz, on a mission to not forget the homeless during the coronavirus. Multiple times a day, Chun Rosenkrantz dons protective gear to venture out into what feels like a ghost town. With a mask across his face and gloves on his hand, he delivers sandwiches to one of the city's most vulnerable populations, those experiencing homelessness. Knowing what it's like to go through these difficult times, Rosenkrantz is inspired to help others. The Upper West Side resident is a recovering addict and was formerly incarcerated. I wanted these sandwiches to be gourmet. I wanted them to be delicious. Having been incarcerated, I know what food tastes like when people think you don't have any value or worth. And I wanted these sandwiches to be the opposite of that, Rosenkrantz said. Celebrating everyone's value and worth is Rosenkrantz's primary focus. In 2016, he founded the I'll Be There Project, a movement that encourages people to participate in daily acts of kindness, something that helped him on his road to recovery. And now, as the coronavirus continues to spread, Rosenkrantz knows kindness is needed more than ever. He, too, was sick at home for almost 3 weeks fighting the virus himself. But he says he's one of the lucky ones, with access to healthcare and a warm bed, and those without homes have been left in the dark with little information. Some were asking, what's going on? Some of them didn't even know what was happening, why everything was being shut down, Rosenkrantz said. Rosenkrantz also writes notes on sandwich bags like, "You matter" and "I love you." Just a simple message to show how much he cares. If someone is experiencing homelessness or experiencing addiction, it doesn't define the whole of who they are. It's just a piece about them. But they're a person first, Rosenkrantz said. So, for giving out not only necessities, but compassion to the city's homeless, Chun Rosenkrantz is our New Yorker of the Week. This podcast is hosted on Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free, there's creation tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Our next article is from CTV News by Sandy Ronaldo and Melissa Lopez Martinez. Dogs join fight against COVID-19 by learning how to detect the virus. A British charity which has successfully trained dogs to detect malaria is now attempting to train their canine sniffers to detect COVID-19. Medical Detection Dogs, a charity in London, UK, has partnered with the London School of Hygiene and Topical Medicine to initiate trials that will train dogs how to sniff out the coronavirus. Dr. Claire Guest, the behavioral psychologist behind the charity, told CTV News she is confident in these canines' ability to help combat the spread of the virus. "We already trained dogs in the past. Absolutely no reason why a dog can't detect the virus," Guest said. 4 years ago, CTV News' Sandy Ronaldo saw firsthand how these dogs are trained to detect serious illnesses such as prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, and malaria. Kiwi, a 3-year-old golden retriever at the time, showed his skills by sniffing various negative samples of a patient with prostate cancer and one positive sample. Within minutes, Kiwi stopped and attentively sat in front of the positive sample. Kiwi and other dogs in the program have been trained to be more than 80% accurate. The same structure of trial is being used to teach dogs how to sniff human samples that have been treated in advance for COVID-19. The person will be breathing out. There'll be a lot of odor around the body that the dog can detect. The dog has to learn that smell, said Guest. Upon successful trials, Guest said the dogs will be vital in detecting those who have the virus but are not exhibiting symptoms, which could be extremely useful when screening travelers entering the UK. Our next article is from the Boston Globe by Brittany Bowker. John Krasinski and Red Sox team up to surprise Beth Israel staff at Fenway Park. It started with a tweet. "Even though we miss Red Sox baseball and the excitement down the street at Fenway, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center's Red Sox Nation is still going strong." Like many sports fans around the country, the staff at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center is feeling the void of a spring without baseball. But in his 3rd episode of Some Good News, John Krasinski, a Newton native, teamed up with the Red Sox to offer a string of surprises for doctors and nurses, reminding folks that good news does in fact prevail. "I know we're all missing baseball," Krasinski said. "Even in the midst of 24-hour shifts and sleepless nights, our healthcare heroes are missing baseball too." Phoning in staffers from Beth Israel's COVID-19 unit, Krasinski presented his hometown healthcare heroes with their first in a series of surprises, a message from David Ortiz. "I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart how much I love and respect you for what you're doing," Ortiz said via video. As a thank you, he announced the Red Sox would be donating 4 tickets to Beth Israel and its employees for life. "I thought I was a big deal and I've been on that wait list for 16 years, Krasinski said. Next, the most sanitized duck boat in America took Beth Israel staffers for a spin around the city, stopping at Fenway Park. "The most special place in Boston has just opened up to the most special people in Boston," Krasinski said. "This place is yours." The Jumbotron flashed thank you videos from Mayor Marty Walsh, Governor Charlie Baker and First Lady Lauren Baker, and the entire Red Sox roster. And finally, the staff of Beth Israel's COVID-19 unit stood on the pitcher's mound under stadium lights and threw out the first pitch of the 2020 season. "You are so our heroes and the most wonderful, lovable people," Krasinski said. But before signing off, he offered one more bit of good news for the nurses and doctors who couldn't make it to Fenway. After finding out we'd be honoring our healthcare heroes this episode, AT&T reached out and asked how they could help, Krasinski said. Having no idea what I was talking about, I said, "Maybe you could cover the cell phone bills of every nurse and doctor in America for 1 month." Their response? "How about 3?" AT&T will cover every nurse and doctor's cell phone bill in America for 3 months. That's it for tonight. Whoever you are and wherever you are, thank you for joining us at Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily. Stay safe and stay inside.